Today's episode is brought to you by NordPass Business, a simple yet advanced tool that makes online activities easier and safer. With NordPass, no one keeps their business account passwords in a notebook or a file on their desktop. Nobody bothers their colleagues about credit card details while they're out on holiday either. That's because NordPass allows all company members to store, manage, and share credentials and sensitive information securely and easily. Beyond that, NordPass quickly identifies weak passwords, monitors data breaches, and gives you full control over who has access to company resources. And check this out, you can now enjoy 3 months of NordPass Business for free. For that, go to www.nordpass.com/Swisspreneur and use the code Swisspreneur.
Founders themselves tend to take themselves often a bit too serious, too important, with a little bit too much of ego, which thankfully Michael and I do not have. We are interested in the best of the company, and this decision is clearly both for the best of the company, and that means also for the best of the two of us.
Yeah, I love that.
Welcome to the Swisspreneur Show, a podcast about startup stories and learnings from experienced entrepreneurs. If you enjoy listening to our show, make sure to follow the podcast and leave a rating. And now, here's your host, Sylvan.
Alessandro, a very well welcome to the Swisspreneur Show. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you as a guest today.
Thank you very much, Sylvan. It's a pleasure of mine.
You're the co-founder and co-CEO at Microcaps, a startup developing breakthrough technology to naturally encapsulate ingredients and fragrances into visually appealing microcapsules. We're going to talk about that in a second, what you actually do. But before that, I want to start with your personal background. You got a chance to do research for your master thesis at Harvard. Then you went on to pursue a PhD here in Zurich at ETH. So I wonder, was this sort of the nursery room for Microcaps to eventually start your own company?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. So absolutely, I think it's twofold to start with. So first of all, it's going to Harvard. We have a great environment, very vibrating, a lot of people going out and being this ecosystem, which is for sure where kind of the spark came out that I want to pursue an entrepreneurial journey. And the second part is then really at ETH itself, where I had the chance given by Professor Andre Studard in the material science department, who had this vision to create an ecosystem for startup-minded people. So we had at the same time 3 people pursuing this dream. We had Phoenix, Spectroplast, and Microcaps all at the same time doing a PhD and actually having the goal and the vision of bringing the technology further into application and eventually into a company.
I love that. So it was the clear number one goal to eventually start a company out of your research.
Absolutely. So I came back from the US. I had lunch with my professor. We discussed of what I want to do. It was clearly the goal to do something entrepreneurial, do a startup. And he said, come to me, come to my group. You have to write 3 publications, else you're very free to develop your technology further. And I think he just put together very like-minded people into his group that then started to team up and pushing themselves. We were at the beginning 3 people. Now there's additional 3 startups which came out of that group. So it's really fostering innovation and it's very good environment to, start and create a company.
I love that because that's exactly the spirit that we need to then translate the research into actual companies. For you, did you ever have a sort of a question or a decision to make? Do I want to continue being a researcher or become an entrepreneur? Was that ever a question that you asked yourself along the process?
No, that was really never a question. First of all, I'm a very bad researcher, very bad scientist. And second, no, I always wanted to bring what we were working at to an application. Mm-hmm. I think it was something that ETH lacked at the time when I started. Now there was a huge improvement on that on the entrepreneurial side, but at the beginning when I started, I found it really a pity that much of like extremely good research then just ended up in a drawer and the PhD left and all the knowledge was gone. And I really wanted to change that. And Andre Stuart wanted to do the same thing, giving us the opportunity to actually go further, and he supported us in all different aspects that he could.
And going further, you then in 2019, you started your company, Microcaps. You were 2 co-founders in total. Where did you meet your co-founder, Michael? Was that also part of the ETH journey?
So I knew Michael beforehand.
Okay.
So he was a very good friend of mine. We actually met playing football.
Oh, perfect.
And he was then studying mechanical engineering. And we were always joking that at some point he would come and do one of his bachelor thesis with me, which we then eventually did. And he then never really left what was then a project and then became the company. So he was coming in for the bachelor thesis. And we knew that we were, sharing same kind of values. And it was just a perfect fit then. And one of the best decisions that I've taken so far to team up with Michael to actually found the company together with him. This was such a strong ground to then go further on with Microcaps.
I love that because you knew each other, so you also knew that you would probably work well together. You shared similar values, I assume. You knew, okay, with this guy, we can go through thick and thin.
Absolutely, and I think that's crucial, and that's the number one thing when you start. I think a start to go exactly through what are you looking for in a person in terms of values, and that's what there was just a perfect match between me and Michi ever since.
Perfect. And please also try to explain to us, it's very technical, but how you actually developed the technology to encapsulate things that are, I would say, for a lack of words, very, very small. Can you tell us a bit more explain it to me like I'm 5 years old, how your technology works, just to better understand it?
Yeah, absolutely. So microencapsulation in general are used for 2 main things. One is to protect an active, and then is to deliver it somewhere. And this has application range in your daily life. It goes from cosmetics, where you need to bring skin active to your skin. It's in food, where you want to encapsulate or protect an aroma and just deliver it once you actually have it on your tongue. It goes further into pharmaceuticals, where you really need to protect an active from the acidity in your stomach and just release it in the intestine. But it can go further into agrochemistry or in the paint industry, just always about protection delivery. And the way this is done today is in huge tanks. It's either spray dry or huge batch reactors, where you put a lot of energy and you mix massively. And with that, you create a very uncontrolled, in terms of size and in terms of composition, uncontrolled way of microcapsules. And that's what we're changing. So we said at the beginning, we're doing microencapsulation with Swiss precision, nice. Meaning that they're all exactly the same size. Yeah. And that's what we started, and we were able to scale this. We started at Harvard with 10 grams an hour, and now we're moving to a ton production per week. So there's a massive improvement nice. There. And this then can have different benefits into different areas. And so from there on, you have this platform, and then you need to find different applications to it, right? So our first application was in skin serum, and now it's going into ethanol-free fine fragrances. So you go and deliver then actually products with this technology. And talking about the fine fragrance, if you have your perfume that you probably applied this morning, it's all based on alcohol, and it's just 15 to 20% is actually the perfume oil. And this has some drawbacks. First of all, ethanol dries out your skin. There's a sustainability issue with it, and there's an entire religion which wants to go away from alcohol. That's why we put the perfume oil inside our microcapsules, surrounded by water. Once you spray the bottle, you break the capsules and then you release the perfume directly on your skin.
That's just mind-blowing. That's so cool.
Absolutely. And that's why you need to have this size control, because you want to have every spray with the exact amount of perfume applied to your skin. Plus, it just visually, it looks extremely beautiful. I can just recommend to go out and check it online.
Absolutely. On your beautifully designed website.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned cosmetics. That's just one potential area of application. You could also work in the nutrition industry or the pharmaceutical industry. How do you sort of balance the many, many potential use cases with your technology? Because I assume every single industry also needs a different sales pitch, maybe even a slightly adapted product, or at least a process. How do you make sure that you, with all the vast options that you have available, that you focus on the right ones?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question, and I think has been since the beginning of Microcaps staying with us. So I would say with this technology, I would say we have a very typical ETH spin-off problem. Great technology, but actually what is the problem that we're actually solving, right? So I would say the first 4 years into the company, we just tested a lot of different applications. I think we did 75 POCs, proof of concepts, going into multiple industries, the ones that I mentioned before, testing so many different actives to actually find what's the real pain point that we can solve. Yeah. And then we found it really with this perfume, which is now, I would say 95% of the company in 2024 is focusing on delivering that product. Mm-hmm. And in the future, 25 going forward, we can broaden it up. We will go into the nutraceutics and health and pharmaceutical space. It's all about nutrition, all-in-one delivery. So instead of you swallowing every day your gelatin pills to take up your nutrients, which is okay maybe for you and me, but my 95-year-old grandma or my 2-year-old son, they can't swallow that. So why not having an all-in-one solution where you have a combination of your oil-soluble and water-soluble actives? The oil-soluble ones are in your tiny microcapsules, the water-soluble in your watery matrix. And instead of swallowing pills, you just drink in the morning as a daily routine your drink, and you have the same nutrition delivered, but in a one solution, in a way simpler way. And this will be going forward what we'll be working on. We already have been working on that, but this is then we'll put a lot more energy back to that.
I feel we just got one step closer to the future in that sense. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the thing. We're a platform technology. There is a lot of applications that we can have going forward. Mm-hmm. Coming with every application, we learn how to produce, we learn how to scale. That will allow to bring down costs. So we're getting closer and closer with each step we're taking. We're getting closer to the traditional methods to microencapsulate. So hopefully and eventually we will be able to start even competing with those.
Because I wanted to say, what you describe, it sounds so cool, but at the same time also pretty expensive. Is that a fair assessment, that just due to the lower volumes that you have today compared to traditional methods, that you are more expensive? Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think you have always to compare two different types of things. You need to compare with others that try to have this size control as well. Mm-hmm. And there we win because we can scale much better than others. And I think that's, a big advantage that we have on that side. And this is coming from, the research that we've putting in the past. Now it's 11 years that we've been working on that. And then going further to the traditional methods, I mean, we're not there as of today, of course. Yeah. And I think this is just a process going there. And of course, you need to start with applications which require not like the huge amounts that the traditional, if you go to aroma encapsulation would actually have. Mm-hmm. But with fine fragrance, we're in a place where price point is good. Our USP is very clear. So we can, the price that we require today, can be paid in the end by the consumers.
And you've proven that with Cajal perfumes from Paris in that sense. And I just wonder, when you went out to test this fragrance market, so to speak, how do you go about testing and also validating that? You mentioned the many POCs that you've done along the way, but as a startup, you always have to balance, there's something, maybe we can build a business around this specific use case, but at the same time, you also have operating expenses to cover. So how do you balance the validation to then get to the point where you said, okay, the price point is right, and we sort of acquire a long-term customer in that sense?
Yeah. It's another very, very good question, Silvan. So, we went out in spring of 2023 to a cosmetics fair in Paris, showing for the first time what we've developed on the perfume side. We got a great market feedback to that. Bigger demand that we've experienced in the past on other prototypes that we showed.
That's a very good first sign,
It's a very good first sign, absolutely. Yeah. So that's what we're really looking for. And so we managed within very short amount of time to talk basically to the entire industry, to all the brands, confirming that this is something exceptionally cool what we're doing.
Yeah. How did you talk to them? Did they come to you based on the fair, or did you cold email them, or how do you do that?
It's really a mix. So we tried a lot of different approaches. So we went to fairs. Then was a lot of cold emails with it, a lot of introductions. The good thing is that it's a very consolidated market, so there's few entry points, but we managed in a very short amount of time to go into, to reach all of them. And then I think we did the very right thing of prioritization. You hear this all the time: prioritize. We did, and that's a decision I'm very proud of that we took to focus all our efforts for a limited amount of time, but to focus all our efforts onto this market, develop, scale, and actually go into production. You mentioned before Cajal. This is still done on our pilot production that we have in-house in Schlieren, which can roughly do 2 tons per year capacity, and now we're scaling to 120, 150 tons. So we're really building up further production space. So there's a huge development on all ends, on the formulation side, on the engineering side, but of course on the marketing side and on the commercial side as well. So that just requires focus. We're a 20 people team. We can't do 100 things at the same time. So that's why focusing, I think, is really key. And it was a very good decision for 2024 to put all our efforts on that product.
I also assume that the fragrance market is probably a bit easier to enter short term compared to pharmaceuticals, where you have potentially longer testing and approval processes. Did that also play a role in that decision or testing?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you have these early and fast adapters as you have with Cajal. Yeah. That's not possible in the pharmaceutical market. Yeah. It just takes longer. But nevertheless, in pharmaceuticals, you could potentially start with R&D and already get paid for R&D. Yeah. So it's not like completely that pharmaceutical, you always think of, 10 years, life cycle, you just earn something after 10 years. With what we're doing, you can also already be paid for R&D, but of course it makes way much more sense to bring now products on the market in the fine fragrance field, because we can just learn way quicker and develop a very outstanding product in a shorter amount of time that we would have in health or pharmaceuticals.
Absolutely. So if I understood your approach correctly, you said first, you need to go broad. You did a lot of POCs. I assume they were paid POCs to make sure to try out and see where you got great initial response. And then you said, okay, there's something. Let's go and check the other companies in the same space if there's really something. And once you found something, now in case of the fragrance market, you then doubled down and said, okay, now we really focus. So it really is a bit like a funnel in that sense.
Absolutely. That's exactly what happened.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And to protect your technology, you did not only file 1, 2, or 3 patents, but actually 11. Yes. Can you tell us a bit more about why A, this is important, and B, how you did that? Because that's also a lot of work and a lot of money if you want to have global protection through a patent in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we are a technology company at heart. We're a B2B technology company. That's a fact. We have this platform for microencapsulation. So not only for one product, but really we want to become the gold standard in microencapsulation. Mm-hmm. And for that, we have different areas. We need to protect ourselves on the formulation side, on the hardware side, so on the machine of how we produce that, but as well on the products that we're developing. So that's why we have 3 different categories where we add different types of patents. Formulation, for example, we have 5 different formulations that we can run on our systems. Right. And that's why we decided very early on to have a very strong IP strategy where patents play a crucial role. And that's why we put a lot of focus and energy into that. Yeah. Also because we're really here for the long run. We're here to develop this technology for different markets, and patents is one of the ways to protect ourselves from potential competitors.
This episode was brought to you by Google Cloud, a partner that needs no introduction. What you might not have heard of, though, is that Google offers a Google for Startups cloud program where they give you access to startup experts, technical training, business support, and cover your Google Cloud costs up to $200,000 for 2 years, or even $350,000 if you're an AI startup. Scale your startup faster and smarter with Google Cloud. Head over to goo.gle/Swisspreneur.
And at the same time, patents would also potentially open up a new way of revenue stream. If for whatever reason you decide, hey, fragrances, that's what we want to focus on, but for pharmaceuticals, we want to license out the technology to a partner, for example, you could also do that, right? Have you ever thought about the different business model approaches where you say doing it all yourself versus licensing out the technology to potential partners and make revenue that way?
Yeah, you're nailing again one of the challenges we had in the past years. I think at the beginning, to bring you back to our journey, we wanted to sell our equipment into different industries and then sell licenses, to produce different formulations for different applications.
Which sounds great in theory,
right?
Which
sounds very great in theory, but in the end, our clients are interested in the product that comes out and not necessarily in, how to produce. There's a lot of drawbacks, a lot of capital expenses upfront. So in order to convince them, you need to produce a lot of samples upfront. So we just decided that for cosmetics and for the fine fragrance field, we produce ourselves. Mm-hmm. So scaling up ourselves, create production capacity. But that doesn't mean that for the health and pharmaceutical space, we would do the same business model. So it's absolutely feasible and as of now, also likely that we would go into what you just explained, a licensing deal and do something to that direction. But that's absolutely possible, yes.
To be defined.
To be defined, exactly.
And I also mean, once you have real use cases, it's probably also easier, even if it's in a different industry, but it's way easier for people to grasp the potential of your technology compared to just making a huge upfront bet and investment to say, hey, I only saw some prototypes or a concept. Now I should put a lot of money down to do that. It's probably easier if you have the perfume in your case now, where they can see how it actually works.
In the end, it comes all down to trust. Right. It's large players we're working with. We're a startup company out of Zurich. How much do you trust this team of 20 people to actually deliver? And that's exactly what you have with production, with proven technology on the market, with products. You're building this trust going into health and pharmaceuticals. So that's spot on one of the ways forward, how to look at it.
Amazing. I love this strategic playing field because some stuff seems counterintuitive, right? I feel at the beginning, or you have to see it and then, oh no, this is the wrong way. We have to do it the other way around.
Yeah. So we learned along the way for the past years, and we also have an amazing board that helps us taking these decisions. Yeah. So that's since the beginning, build up a very, very strong board already in year one. And this helps us a lot to deciding in which areas to go and how to think about it.
And another very important part of your company's success are your values, your culture. Yeah. You mentioned you are 20 people today. Please tell us a bit more about what your core values and the culture are at Microcaps and how they have contributed to where you are today.
Yeah, so we are now 5.5 years into this journey. And I would say 2024 is really a transition year from a startup, being very innovative, fast, test a lot of proof of concept, to actually quality delivery on time, becoming a scale-up, if you want so. Mm-hmm. That's why we redefined in a workshop, together with our team, the team values for the phase we're into right now. It's all about, one is dare to do the right thing. It's commit to excellence over and over again. It's push for individual success, but win together. It's when you combine learn plus implementation, then we actually have growth. Yeah. And the last one is that we develop solutions through both creativity, but also through leveraging others. So just by these values, you see the evolution that we're having moving forward into quality, into delivery, into operational excellence.
Really the gold standard that you want to be in established.
Absolutely, yes.
I wonder, the value creation, that's a very important part of a company. Did you do that when you had roughly the 20 people you are now, or when did you start that process, and how did you do the value creation? Because of course you have a lot of implicit knowledge about them because the team works and lives by these values every day. Mm-hmm. But how do you make them explicit? What was the process to get them on paper?
So the first time we actually cared about values was maybe 2 years in the company. We're like a team of 10, 12 student team still at ETH. So we sat down together and defined the goal, the values that we had at that time, also together with the entire team. The same thing happened right now. So it's really reflecting a lot about the strategy, where you want to go, and what's the mindset and the values that you need to implement. Yeah. And then I think it's a process. It's a lot of discussions, and then you do exercises with the team, and then you bring them on paper.
You talk about them basically to see
them,
where you have the common ground.
Absolutely, yes.
What we love to do at the companies I was involved in, we were doing a survey through Typeform where we had, I don't know how many it was, like 100 different values. Yeah. And then every employee basically selected their top 10 values. And then we saw what were the overlapping values or which one were similar. And then we drew them out, and then we talked about them to really define them in like 1 or 2 sentences.
That's exactly what we did. And then you come and talk about it. What does it mean for you? And then you write them down. And we have now these 5 values that I just explained before, plus below what it actually means. So 3 bullet points. Yeah. We hang them up in our common room, that everybody sees them, very visible. We have them on our website, so just make them extremely visible, that everybody knows that comes in what we stand for and what our core values are ultimately.
And that is probably the groundwork that you need to have in place to then be able to scale up as a company, maybe go from 20 to 100 or even 200 employees. And that is sort of the phase that you're in right now, right? In the first 5.5 years, you found the first focus area with fragrances. And now it's also time to basically build the scale up, grow into a real and mature company in that sense. And there you made a recent decision to hire a CEO coming in to help you take the company to the next level. First of all, why was that the right decision for you? That's quite a big step as a co-CEO and co-founder to get someone else in.
Yeah, I think it's a big step that we've took. It's for me and Michael, it's probably smaller than for the outside world because it came very logical to us. Mm-hmm. We sat together at the beginning of the year and we were discussing and reflecting the values and the transition we're in. And we decided that we need external know-how in leadership, in building, in growing further. We had, thankfully, Nadine already with us as a CFO for 1.5 years. So she knew the company by heart, what we're doing, what we stand for. She shares the same values as Michael and I do. And, very experienced from her background. And thus it was a very logical decision to ask her if she's interested in the CEO position, while Michael and I can continue to focus on the areas where we're very good at and we can really change something, which is for Michael on the commercial side. So he's by far the best salesperson of Microcaps that I've ever seen. Yeah. And me going into science technology and the markets of the future. So this is kind of, where both our passions are. And I think this is how we're equipped ourselves for the steps into the future. And I must say, I'm very proud of that decision that it came from me, Michael and myself. And I've not seen many doing something like that, but for us, it feels absolutely the right way to do and to go with that into the future.
Yeah, I know many founders would struggle to give up that power, so to speak, and say, hey, it's best for the company, but I personally sort of lose something. So kudos
absolutely.
To you and Michael for doing that.
I think, founders themselves tend to take themselves often a bit too serious, too important, with a little bit too much of ego, which thankfully Michael and I do not have. Yeah. We are interested in the best of the company, and this decision is clearly both for the best of the company, and that means also for the best of the two of us.
Yeah, I love that. I have 2 takeaways that I take from that. One is you hired someone with experience who has sort of done that before, the CEO role, or who has that experience and brings that to the table. And at the same time, you worked with that person for a certain amount of time to ensure that there is a culture fit instead of just hiring someone externally and then maybe it will work or maybe it will not work out.
Absolutely. So yeah, you need to, having this person already, having Nadine already in the company for 1.5 years, the entire company knows her. She's, a leader by example. It's very, very clear, that she's the perfect person to lead us forward. So it's really a no-brainer.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And one other big challenge that comes with that, you and Michael are the co-founders of Microcaps. So obviously you are probably still one of the biggest shareholders in the company. Now you sort of promoted Nadine to CEO. How do you structure the incentive package to make sure that she also participates in the upside that all of you create together, but also probably you as co-founders don't get diluted too much? How do you solve that? Because that's a very tricky and not an easy subject.
You look into the future. You try to think strategically what can happen, and you make it very success based. I think that's ultimately what's people might say it's a lot in the case of success, but then it's a lot for everybody.
Sure.
And that's something you just need to sit down and calmly reflect what's going to happen and what do you expect to happen with the company going forward, looking to 3, 4, 5 years to the future. And then you define success. And based on the success you make, then it's a clear step forward how you then get to the compensation package.
Is that mainly a share compensation, to have shares where everyone then gets rewarded in case of a success, meaning an exit or big dividends or whatever it is?
Yeah, it's a combination between options and a base salary, which of course is like in the end what defines a compensation for a top level person as Nadine is.
And in that sense, you mentioned options, so there's no direct share purchase or buy-in of the new CEO in that sense.
There is slightly, yes, absolutely, but it's a combination of the three aspects.
Okay, and I know I don't want to go into very specific numbers, but the range for a CEO compensation, like how much shares should they have compared to the co-founders? Is it more like 2 to 5%, or maybe like 5 to 10%, or even above 10%? What is sort of your range where you say, hey, this is a fair and a good compensation for a CEO given the 5.5 years that you and Michael already put in the company to bring it where it is today, but to also share the potential upside that you now start to build together?
Again, I can only speak for Microcaps.
Of course.
The biggest success that we can imagine, that it's somewhere getting between 5 and 10%.
Okay, perfect. I like that. I think that's probably a good number. Yeah. And how was it for the team to sort of say, hey, we have the CFO that we already know, and suddenly this person becomes the CEO? How was that for the team? Was that a difficult transition, or also a very natural one as it was for you and Michael?
I think, so first of all, to say we just did the start as of 1st of August. Yeah. So nice, the beginning of September.
Still nice
so
and fresh. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's still nice and fresh. But I think it came very logical to the team. I've always think that it's good if there's new fresh wind coming to the company, new ways of communication, new ideas. I think it like a company, the same as a sports team, profit a lot from new inputs, whether that's a new coach or for us a new CEO. I think it's just for the good for everybody.
Makes sense. And we also always like to look a bit into the future. So what are the goals that you and your newly expanded leadership team and overall team are looking to tackle over the next few months?
Yeah, for the next few months, I mean, we're full into scaling our production for the perfume pearls. So this is a super big milestone to start and get this up and running, fill capacity there with the focus on all the quality and the delivery to the clients. So this is like the short-term milestones with, we have, as of today, 2 products in the fine fragrance field on the market. There's way more to follow. So this is a lot of production now is already scheduled, and this is something we're immensely proud of. And then it's all about expanding into new markets, expanding into the food market, into the health and nutraceutics pharma market. So this will be on our 3 horizon approach: first cosmetics, then nutraceutics, and then pharma. This is what we will be working on in the next 5 years. So it will be extremely interesting to see.
And that will certainly keep you busy. As we heard, that is Absolutely. Your focus area, product and new markets.
Exactly.
What about an exit? Is that also something that you think about as co-founders to potentially sell the company one day? Or maybe you even already got some offers along the way because of your innovative technology?
So no, I have to disappoint you. We're not thinking a lot about exits. We continue to grow our company. We have lots of plans. I think we have very bright future ahead, and we're not thinking of exits, not actively planning for them.
You will be the gold standard. That's the goal, and everything
That's
else will happen
absolutely-
or not happen.
Exactly.
And what is next for you, Alessandro, as an individual?
Yeah, so now I'm, starting a new role.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's a transition for me. It's about bringing the team together, setting up the 12-month strategy for us. What's the plan? What do we need to deliver as a new science and technology team? And then it's expansion into new markets. And I think this will keep us very busy in the team.
Definitely. And I have two last areas that I would like to ask you a few questions about. The first one is resources and gadgets. Do you have any favorite resources or gadgets that you can share with us that you use on a regular basis yourself?
I have to disappoint you so much again. I'm such an old school person. I use pen and notebook where I just note down everything. So I'm very, very
The
traditional.
simple life. That's
a very
perfect.
simple life.
Okay, so then let's continue with some rapid fire questions. I'm going to give you different options to choose from or a simple question, and you have to answer in maximum one sentence.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's your favorite Swisspreneur episode? Because you told me that you like to listen to our podcast as well.
It would be very unfair to tell you one episode. I listen every day, every morning on my 30 minutes commute to work to podcasts in general.
Yeah.
One is your podcast, and I write notes in my notebook if I learn
cool.
something. So I
Nice.
have all learnings together. I enjoy mostly if I listen to people that I've crossed paths in the past 5 years.
Sure.
And I know them personally.
Yeah. A very diplomatic answer. Well done. If you had to choose researcher or entrepreneur?
That's easy. It's entrepreneur.
Yeah, you made that very clear in the beginning. Speaking of perfumes, where you are very focused on right now, what is your favorite fragrance?
It's of course one using Microcaps perfume purse. It's one that we're about to produce. It's very summery, fresh perfume that I'm very excited about.
And if you had to distill the Microcaps team values down to a single one, which one would it be?
Probably just do it. I think that applies for a lot of situations, but just do it.
Perfect. And when you tell people that you're a startup founder, what kind of reactions that you get?
Most of the time, a lot of curiosity, a lot of questions, and then very much, you must be a risk. It's impressive how many risks you took. For me, it doesn't feel like that I took many risks. It all felt very natural on the way, but this is mostly the reaction I get.
Cool. That's probably the best way to feel. It's very natural. So you seem to be in the perfect place, the perfect spot for you.
Absolutely. I'm very happy of what we've achieved with our amazing team, and I'm very looking forward to the upcoming years.
Hey, that's the perfect way to end the episode. Alessandro, thank you so much for stopping by. I wish you all the best and lots of success, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much, Silvan. It was a pleasure.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, you can support us by rating our show on Apple Podcasts. This way, we can reach an ever-growing number of aspiring entrepreneurs.